In this lesson, you're going to begin learning about the laws of exponents. You're going to spend the next 2 days reviewing and understanding why these laws work. The basic information for vocabulary that you need to know is a base is the number being multiplied by itself a given number of times. Your exponent is the number of times the base is being multiplied by itself. So, for example, if I had 3 to the 4th power, okay, my 3 is going to be the base, and the 4 is going to be the exponent. And this basically means that I'm taking my number 3 and I'm multiplying it by itself 4 times. So that would look like 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Same thing if I had x raised to the 5th power. My x is going to be my base. Although I don't know the exact number x represents, I know it still is the base. And the 5 is still going to be the exponent. Now, if you realize, we've already been working with bases and exponents when we've been doing the Pythagorean theorem. If you think about it, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, a, b, and c are our bases, and then our 2's, or our squares as we call them, is our exponent. So you can refer back to that. There are 2 ways to write out exponents. There's going to be your factored form and your simplified form. You're going to need to remember both of these for tomorrow, for the book asks you to do both of them. Your factored form is when you write out each of the exponents in an expanded form. It may also be referred to as the expanded form later on. Your simplified form is what you write out as the final answer after everything's been simplified. So you usually end up going from your factored form to your simplified form. By the end of it, our goal is to go from our given information to our simplified form without having to write everything out. But again, we're going to get there. So for the factored form, if you have x cubed, well, remember, x is our base, and the 3, or the cube in this case, as we call it, is how many times you're multiplying it. So it's x times x times x, and that's your factored form. For the next one, x squared times y to the 4th quantity multiplied by x cubed. So to write this out as factored form, I would have x times x, because again, x is my base, and I have it 2 times. And then my y is my base, and I have that 4 times. So y times y times y times y. And then I also have x cubed. Now I ran out of room on the side, so I'm going to write it down below, but it's still going to be multiplied by x times x times x. Okay, so that is the expanded form. If I were to write the simplified form of that, I would write out what I have left. So after I've written out my expanded form, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 x's. So I'm going to write that as x to the 5th. Again, x is my base, and I'm multiplying it by itself 5 times. Well, then let's look at our y's. I know y is the base. I'm going to write that down. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 y's. So I'm going to write that as just y to the 4th power. So, again, this up here is my expanded or factored form. All I've done down below is just rewritten it after I've expanded it out into the simplified answer. This is really what you're going to be working on tomorrow. You have a ton of problems where you're going to write out the factored and then go to the simplified. When you do that, you're going to look to see if you notice any patterns of how I can get from the given information to my simplified form without having to go to my factored form. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow. The first law that you're going to be working with is x times a times x to the b equals x to the a plus b. Now, I know you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, basically what it says is when you are multiplying numbers with the same base, you keep the base the same and you add the exponents. You're going to work a lot with this tomorrow, and you'll understand why it makes sense. So realistically, if you look at the examples, we have 3 to the 4th times 3 squared. Well, my base is going to stay the same at 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 plus 2. So realistically, my answer is then going to be 3, and then 4 plus 2 is 6. So my answer is really going to be 3 to the 6th power. Same thing for 4 to the 6th times 4 squared. Well, I really have 4 as my base, and then 6 plus 2. And so 6 plus 2 gives me 8, so it's really equal to 4 to the 8th power. X cubed times x to the 1st is still going to be x, and then 3 plus 1, which equals x to the 4th power. Go ahead and do the next one, and I'll be checking that one tomorrow. The next law you're going to be working with tomorrow is x to the a all multiplied to the b. So what that is basically saying when you have a power raised to a power, you keep the base the same and you multiply the exponents. And if you think about it, it makes sense to multiply them because they're both right outside and next to the parentheses. So if I have 3 squared raised to the 4th power, that's like saying I have 3 to the 2 times 4, which gives me 8. So this is really 3 to the 8th power. X to the 6 squared is going to be x to the 6 times 2, which is 12, so it's really x to the 12th power. Go ahead and do 5 to the 4th, all raised to the 3rd power, and I will check that one tomorrow. But before you pause the video, understand that these are 2 laws that you're really going to need to keep somewhere that you are going to remember them for high school. We'll work more with them as the year progresses, but this is something that's really going to help you next year when you take Algebra 1.